Once upon a time, in a faraway forest untouched by car horns or the rush of the city, there was only the rustling of wind through the leaves and the gentle sound of a flowing stream. In that quiet place, an old monk lived alone in a simple cave. He owned no riches, held no status, but he possessed something many people search their entire lives for: a deep and unshakable peace of mind. Each day, he meditated beneath the trees, listening to the wind and listening to himself. But then a small creature, a mouse, fell from above and disrupted that sacred stillness. No one could have known that this moment would begin a chain of events where compassion, power, and a single toxic thought would change everything. What happens when a mind begins to feed on fear and ambition? Join me as we explore this strange yet symbolic story, one that may leave you asking, are we truly in control of our emotions, or are they quietly steering the course of our lives? Up next, we'll step into the first chapter, from compassion to the first mistake. Don't take your eyes off the screen. One quiet afternoon, as the sun quietly slipped behind the mountains, the old monk sat in front of his cave, eyes gently closed, his mind dissolving into the rhythm of the forest's breath. Suddenly, a small sound broke the stillness. Thud. A tiny mouse had fallen from the sky, dropped from the beak of a crow. It trembled, panicked, and was nearly exhausted. The monk said nothing. He quietly picked it up, cradled it in his palm, and carried it inside. He placed a few grains of rice in front of it. From that day on, the mouse stayed, nourished by pure compassion. Day by day, the mouse grew stronger, healthier, and lived peacefully in the stone cave. But one day a cat appeared. Now used to safety, the mouse was terrified. It rushed into the monk's robe, pleading for protection. The monk sighed. Moved by kindness, he used his meditative power and transformed the mouse into a cat. No longer afraid, the new cat roamed the forest freely. But then a wild dog appeared, and the fear returned. Once again, the monk took pity and transformed the cat into a dog, the next time into a tiger. And finally, when the tiger was chased by hunters, he was granted the form of a man. The monk had never refused a plea for help. But what he didn't realize was that with every gift of strength, he wasn't just growing a body. He was feeding a pride that had long slumbered in the dark. A small lesson: kindness is a beautiful gift, but without wisdom, it can become a double-edged sword. Because when we treat only the outer fear without helping someone face the inner fear, no matter how powerful they become, they will still keep trembling. From a small mouse, it had now become a man. With the form of a human, it was no longer chased by cats, dogs, or tigers. It was free to watch the sunrise without fear that a sudden noise would make it flinch. It had strength, intelligence, and a status it had never dared to dream of. But strangely, every time it passed by the monk's cave, its heart would race. Not from fear of being hurt, but from fear of being exposed. What if one day, the monk reveals who I really am? What if someone finds out I used to be a cowardly mouse? Though it had the body of a man, the old fear remained untouched inside. Fear doesn't disappear just because you change your form. It doesn't vanish just because you wear a suit or stand on a stage. Fear isn't rooted in who you are on the outside, but in whether you've accepted who you are on the inside. A small lesson: we often believe that if we become more talented, wealthier, or more powerful, our fear, insecurity, and self-doubt will go away. But the truth is, if you don't heal the mind, even at the top of the mountain, you'll still carry the cold winds of the valley below. Just like the character in this story. Though he had become a man, the shadow of his past haunted him. And from that fear came suspicion, anxiety, and eventually, a desperate need to hide. And from the fear of being exposed, a dangerous thought begins to take shape. In the next part, 3, the birth of ego, when gratitude turns into control, you'll see, sometimes we don't lose ourselves because we fail, but because we're too afraid that someone might see who we used to be. At first, it was just a passing thought. What if one day the monk reveals that secret? A question as small as a speck of dust. But that speck didn't drift away in the wind. It settled into the corners of the mind, clinging to the shadows of insecurity. From doubt, it turned into fear. From fear, it morphed into suspicion. And from suspicion, suddenly, it became the intent to kill. Just one thought, a flicker in the mind. But if left unchecked, it can eat away at the heart like acid, drop by drop. In real life, this is all too familiar. Have you ever fallen into the trap of thinking someone was talking behind your back? Believing your boss was unfair just because of a glance? Or Just because a message wasn't answered, you concluded you were forgotten. It all begins with one single thought. But if you feed it, repeat it, nurture it, it grows into a monster. It begins to control your emotions, your actions, and how you view the world. A small lesson. We are not hurt by the whole world, but by one small thought left unexamined. A seed of resentment, jealousy, or judgment, if not witnessed and released, spreads like an oil stain on water. And suddenly, you see everyone through a lens of suspicion. You begin to believe any story crafted by your unhealed mind. The story of the mouse, now a man, about to murder the very monk who saved him, is a powerful reminder. It's not the big things that make us fall. It's the small thoughts we're not mindful enough to let go. In the next part, 4. The danger of unchecked emotion, when gratitude turns into betrayal, we'll face one of the most dangerous emotions of all, betraying the very hand that once lifted us up, blinded by fear. Once upon a time, the little mouse in the story feared only the cat, then the dog, then the tiger, and finally just one person who knew its past. Today, we're not chased by tigers, but we are haunted by something far more subtle: the gaze of society, invisible judgments, and unspoken expectations. Every time you post a photo online, a part of you quietly wonders, will anyone hit the like button? And when there's no response, you quietly conclude, I'm not good enough. A single careless comment can cost you a night of sleep. One comparison to a colleague can shake your sense of worth. We live in an era where everything can become kindling for our emotions. Not because others intend to hurt us, but because we've become too reactive. Today's emotional triggers don't come from real danger, but from envy on social media, the fear of being left behind, the pressure to always be okay. We lose our peace, not because there are too many enemies, but because we haven't yet learned to sit with what's stirring inside us. A small lesson: the modern world will always be noisy, but you can choose not to react right away. You can learn to pause for just one breath. Take a deep inhale, and observe your feelings instead of becoming their prisoner. The monk in the story did not react when betrayed, because he had seen it coming. But what about us? Can we learn to remain calm in the storms of the modern world? In the next part, 5. The danger of unchecked emotion, when gratitude turns into betrayal, we enter the most critical moment. How can an action born from gratitude transform into the deepest act of betrayal? In an age where everything moves so fast, reacting feels almost natural. A harsh comment, we snap back. Bad news, we panic. A wave of unease, we immediately seek escape. We are taught to react quickly, but rarely taught how to pause. Not reacting doesn't mean ignoring. It doesn't mean suppressing emotions or pretending nothing happened. Not reacting is an art, the art of observation. It's when emotions rise, and you see them, instead of letting them grab your hand and drag you along. Imagine emotions as waves. If you react instantly, you'll get swept away. But if you stand steady and observe, the wave will pass, and you'll still be there, calm and grounded. In Buddhism, this is called satipatthana, mindful awareness of body and mind. Observing sensations without clinging. Listening to the mind without identifying with it. A real-life example. You're in a meeting, and someone criticizes your idea. Your first instinct is to fire back. But instead, you take a deep breath, feel your heartbeat, and calmly say, I hear your perspective. Thanks for sharing. You may not agree, but you just chose a conscious response, instead of a reflexive reaction. A small lesson: not reacting doesn't make you weak. It's the deepest form of inner strength. You can't control every situation, but you can always choose how you walk into it, with steadiness instead of chaos. In the next part, 6. The mind is the battlefield. What you don't guard will control you. We'll dive deeper into the inner world, where every real battle begins and ends. Emotional reactions don't happen on the meditation cushion. They show up in the middle of everyday life. A message that irritates you. Someone says something unfair. A sudden moment makes your heart race, and you're about to snap. In that moment, if you're not present, you'll react. And sometimes one wrong reaction can damage an entire relationship. But here's the good news. You don't have to be a monk to stay calm. You just need a few simple, practical tools, ones you can use right now. Tool number 1, stop and breathe, the 4-4-6 technique. When emotion rises, your breath is the key. Here's how to do it. Inhale for 4 seconds. Hold for 4 seconds. Exhale for 6 seconds. Repeat for 3 rounds. That's it. Your nervous system begins to shift from fight or flight to rest and calm. Science calls this activating the parasympathetic nervous system, and it helps you regain control. Tool number 2, shift the view, name the emotion. Instead of thinking, I'm being insulted, try saying, I'm feeling angry. When you name the emotion, you separate yourself from it. For example, instead of reacting when someone blames you, you can think, I'm feeling hurt. Just that one shift, and suddenly, you're in the driver's seat, not the passenger. Tool number 3, body action intention. A practice from Buddhist teaching. You can remember 3 simple steps. First, body. Notice what your body is doing. Are your hands clenched? Is your heart racing? Second, action. Do something else. Sip water. Step outside. Rub your palms together. Third, intention. Ask yourself, will this reaction help me or harm me? This isn't just a quick hack. It's a way to retrain your nervous system to choose mindful responses. Here's a small lesson. Your emotions aren't the enemy, but if you don't gently guide them, they'll end up steering you. These 3 small tools, practiced daily, become your emotional brakes, helping you stay grounded amid life's storms. In the next part, the mind is the battlefield. What you don't guard will control you. We'll step into the mind, the place where every reaction, every decision, begins with a single thought. When the man, once a tiny mouse, stepped into the cave with a knife in hand, he was no longer the fragile creature needing protection. He was a man with a thinking mind, full freedom, and the intent to kill. And the monk, the one who had given him every chance to live a better life, this time didn't save him, didn't preach. He acted, but for the last time, he recited a mantra and turned the man back into a mouse. Not out of anger, not for revenge, but because he knew it was time to set a boundary. In life, there are moments when we confuse compassion with weakness. We think that endless forgiveness will change someone. We think that helping more will finally make them grateful. We think that by staying silent and enduring, things will eventually get better. But sometimes, that's not the case. True wisdom knows when to say, enough. A true teacher doesn't just teach you how to love, but also when to stop so that others can learn their own lesson. Because without boundaries, your kindness becomes an opening for others to harm you. A small lesson. Compassion doesn't mean endless tolerance. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting every hurtful thing. Wisdom is knowing when to forgive and when to walk away. Just like the monk, those who truly understand life do not cling to anyone. They are willing to give, and just as willing to end things when needed. Because love does not chain, and wisdom knows when to draw the line. In the closing chapter, we'll reflect together. In your own life, is there something you've been holding on to for too long? Is there someone or something where it's time to draw a boundary? There's something interesting in that story. Not everyone notices it right away. The monk wasn't the only one with magic, because each of us carries a monk within. A part that is wise, a part that is quiet and patient, a part that observes and doesn't rush to react. That is your inner monk. He doesn't speak much. He doesn't argue. He doesn't get swept up in the storm of emotion. But he sees everything clearly. Think back to a moment when you were angry, ready to explode, and a small voice whispered, "Don't react yet, just wait." That was your inner monk. What's the lesson here? You don't need to become a monk. You don't need to live in a forest to learn how to master your emotions. You just need to observe your thoughts instead of following them. Pause for 3 seconds before reacting. Ask yourself, will this reaction actually help? A small example. You get a message that upsets you. An average person replies immediately, words laced with hurt. A person with an inner monk puts the phone down, takes a breath, walks a bit, and replies from wisdom, not from a wound. Your monk is always there. You just need to give him space to speak. And when you practice this often, gradually you will. Stop being so easily affected by others. Learn to choose wise responses over reactive ones. Feel lighter, even in the chaos of daily life. And that is when you arrive at the final part of this journey, a conclusion that isn't an end, but the beginning of a new way of living. A life where you are the calm observer in the storm, where you don't need to control others, because you've learned how to guide yourself. There's an old story you might have heard. A young boy asked his grandfather, "Grandpa, is it true that inside every person 2 wolves are fighting?" The grandfather nodded. One is fear, anger, envy, and resentment. The other is peace, gratitude, kindness, and wisdom. The boy asked, "Which one wins?" And the grandfather replied, "The one you feed every day." Throughout this video, you've heard the story of a small mouse given power, yet defeated by a single thought. Not because of fate, not because of a lack of opportunity, but because it fed fear instead of gratitude. What about you? Every day, you make choices in your thoughts. Do you react impulsively, or do you pause to observe? Do you believe the criticism in your mind, or do you trust your own growth? Do you feed insecurity, or do you plant seeds of understanding? The lesson isn't in the story. The lesson is in how you choose to live after hearing it. You can't control everything around you, but you can choose which wolf lives within you. And it begins with something very small. A slower breath, a gentle word to yourself, a moment where you don't react, but simply observe. Remember this, a reaction might satisfy you for 5 seconds, but wisdom will give you peace for a lifetime. So feed the wolf of awareness, because only when you become your own ally will you stop fearing the world around you. If today's story touched you, even just a little, then you've already taken the first step on the path of awareness. You don't need to change the whole world. You only need to change how you respond to a single moment. You only need to choose not to answer with anger, but with quiet understanding. And if you've learned something valuable, don't keep it to yourself. Maybe you know someone out there caught in a storm of anger, someone feeling powerless in the face of overwhelming emotions. A friend, a loved one, or even an old version of yourself. Send them this video. No explanation needed. Just a quiet act of sharing. Sometimes that's enough to spark a miracle. You can also leave a simple comment. I choose wisdom, not reaction. Because every word you write is a seed. And when you put it into words, you're planting it not only for others, but deeper into yourself. And if you haven't yet, click subscribe. Not just to watch more videos like this, but to remind yourself that there is a place where you belong. A place of peace. A place of healing stories. A place to return to when the world becomes too loud. Be someone who carries light. You never know who your light might guide out of the dark. And if you're still fighting the waves inside, you're not alone. We're here with you, sending you peace with every breath.